and welcome to ISTE's Beyond NITK. Today we have with us our Chronicle SIG head for the year 2017-2018, Yashaswini Karanth. She is a graduate of Material Science from Texas A&M University. Hi Yashaswini, how are you?
Hi, Annette. I'm great. It's good to hear from you. How are you doing?
I'm good too. So why don't we start off today with just a bit about yourself?
Okay. So as Annette mentioned, I am Yashaswini and I have just wrapped up. I'm in the process of wrapping up my master's in material science and engineering from Texas A&M University. I'm actually going to be graduating in less than a month now. So super excited for that. Fingers crossed, everything goes well. I will be going on to do my PhD next at Arizona State University. That's the next big project, I could say. I was the Chronicle head, the head for the Chronicle SIG for the batch of 2017-18. And I was the treasurer of ISTE in the year 2016-17, and I have been in Chronicle since 2015.
So how was your experience at Texas A&M University? What did you most like about your college?
Honestly, when I first got here, if you had asked me this question when I first got here, the answer would not have been very encouraging. But now that I'm looking back on my time, I am going to miss this place a lot. Honestly, like this place has great culture in general terms of the kind of pride that Texans have in their roots. It's very similar to the kind of patriotic sentiment that Indians tend to relate to. So it's a thing that I'm going to miss. They're all very proud of their cowboy culture, their whole howdy man thing, and the chivalry and the religion. It's a deeply culture oriented place. I'm definitely going to miss that because at least according to what I've seen about the rest of the states, that's not the case everywhere in the states. Another thing is, of course, the great infrastructure, and it's a campus town. So the entire town is built and kind of facilitates just around the student body, which is great because after having experienced Suratkal, it's kind of what you get used to, right? I mean, you get used to just being just the student community, and then everybody working there is working to facilitate this learning environment. So that's another thing that I'm going to miss because the other colleges, they can either be in metropolitans or, not really a very focused learning environment. Uh, yeah, these are the two things that I would say I would miss the most about Texas A&M for sure.
You were the head of Chronicle and a junior research fellow while you were preparing for your college application. Can you walk us through how you managed your application process while you were balancing such leadership roles?
So the college application procedures generally start off around, they generally start picking pace around September time. Like you come back from your summer vacation and then your college starts and then you have a month to get settled in. And then it really starts like picking up pace sometime around September. So for me, I was lucky enough to be working with a team that was great. Like honestly, um, no offense to any of my seniors who might be watching this, but the Chronicle team that I worked with that particular year was so brilliant. Everyone, like even today, uh, I can say that hands down, that is the most cohesive team I've worked with. That definitely helped. It helped that, you know, it didn't really require a lot of pushing from my side or constant like micromanagement or anything of that sort. It was just, uh, the team dynamics just they just flowed, which was helpful for certain, but at the same time it did teach me to kind of uh, how to supervise things, how to be in the loop while at the same time getting my work done. So for me, there's a lot of like all of these procedural things that go into applying for masters, which include stuff like your GRE exams, your TOEFL exams. So all of that, I had gotten it out of the way by September. By the end of September, I'd gotten it out of the way, and I'd begun preparing for it. So that's another thing that I'll probably be talking about in the later part of this interview. But when you know that you want to go for your masters, if you have that clarity, it kind of makes your life much easier in final year, because I was able to concentrate on just my applications. Like I knew for a fact that I wouldn't be sitting for placements, so I did not sit for the round of placements for my batch at all. So it was good for me. I did not have to divide my focus between two things. which personally for me, I'm not really good at. I'm not really good at multitasking as such. I have to focus on one thing and give it my entire tunnel vision focus to be able to succeed at it, which I know in hindsight is a bad thing. I'm still learning how to improve on that. But yeah, coming back to applications, I was able to finish all my GRE, my TOEFL. I was able to get it out of the way by September because I knew from before that this is what I wanted to do. And then after that, it just was getting recommendations letters, which is just, you just have to keep pestering your professors, go behind them every once in 2 3 days, like show them your face, keep, like refresh your face in their mind, is another tip that I'd like to give to whoever's applying for like higher studies this year. uh, but the most grueling part was definitely the statement of purpose, the SOP, the essays that you write. And it takes a lot out of you to sit and write that. And that's where I believe that I had a great team that I was able to work with, that it didn't really it the whole Chronicle leadership position didn't really impede with my application process because of that. And then after that, after December, it kind of chills down a little. So, and back in those days, the biggest event that Chronicle did in the odd semester was Scotland Yard. And then it was pretty much our one thing. And then after that, we take a breather and then we come back the next semester with like renewed josh and whatnot. So I was able to kind of like work my application timetables around my Chronicle timetables. So that's the thing. In conclusion, to wrap up this, kind of rambling monologue, but yeah, in conclusion, when you're if you are somebody that is not able to multitask, or if you're somebody like me who needs to direct your attention on one task at a time, I would highly suggest like drafting out or like mapping out timetables wherein you figure out what needs your priority first and what can be slotted for later, which is something I've always done throughout my life, and it's helped me a lot. Figuring out what needs my immediate and urgent attention, and then just urgent but not immediate attention. That is the concept that I function on. Yeah.
As the time for applying to a research internship for the third years comes near, can you give us some good tips to ace through and tell us how was your journey when you were trying to secure an internship at UD?
Okay, so I after my third year, I did my summer internship at the University of Duisburg-Essen in Germany, and I applied for this internship through the IAESTE program. It's a very it's one of those it's technically a summer exchange program where they send you to uh, countries all over the world. Really, they have programs running all over the world, but I was specifically interested in Germany because I knew that Germany as such is a stronghold for my field. So like I said, I had known from a long time, actually, like that definitely helped. I had known from a long time that I wanted to pursue my master's and then my PhD. Like this has been 7 years in the making now, this entire process. But because I knew that I wanted to apply for higher studies, I knew that I needed substantial research experience on my resume, for which I would have to apply to research internships abroad, or either in India at one of the IITs or ISC. Now, knowing this, I started exploring different avenues through which I could, score internships, research internships. And one of the programs that actually my seniors recommended to me was IAEST. And how it works is they have chapters, they have nationwide chapters. I think the closest one to us was Manipal. And you apply to the Manipal chapter, and then you send them your transcripts, your extracurricular certificates, your GPA, your letters of recommendations. You send your application package to them, and then if they accept you, then you are eligible for choosing internships from a list of different colleges that are offering internships in your area. So how it works is they circulate this first list, second list, third list, and then in each list they have different colleges and different professors who are working in the field that you're applying to. And you can either choose to apply to list one, and if you apply to list one, then you are not eligible to apply to the subsequent lists that come out later. But if you choose to wait, if you choose to say that, hey, no, I don't really see anybody that interests me or fascinates me in the first list, I'm going to take a risk on that and then wait for the second list or third list to come out so that, by chance, hopefully I should be able to find a professor that aligns with my interests. Then you wait for the subsequent list to come out. But yeah, it's kind of like a payoff, like you're kind of, gambling is too strong a word, but you're kind of choosing the right opportunity and the right, like filtering out the right opportunities for you. So that's how the process of application works. Yeah, and I was lucky enough. So I knew that I'm in material science engineering, which is worldwide. It's kind of a niche field, I would say. There's not a lot of it's not a big group of people. Like we're a very tight knit group of academicians. And I think every list there were like 2 or 3 professors that were offering internships in the field that I was in material science in general. And I was lucky enough to find a professor that I wanted to work with in the second list. Additionally, I also had the location constraint of working in Germany itself, but I know friends who worked in, I believe it was Austria through the same program. They had internships in Brazil, they had internships in Australia.
So those who want to pursue an MS in material science, which all colleges would you suggest that they should look into?
Okay, so this is something that, this is something that definitely is very specifically catered to material science and like metallurgical juniors in the college, whoever might be watching this. First of all, big hi to all of them. I'm so glad that you're in the branch. Moreover, okay, so coming to the answer of the question that Anna just posed, whenever like me, my batchmates, my seniors, whenever all of us have applied to masters or higher studies, there has always been these two categories. Either you apply to Europe or you apply to USA. So I'm just going to like list off like a few good colleges off the top of my head. In Europe, I'm not really too sure about like how ambitious these colleges are in Europe, because I never applied to Europe. I applied only to the States. But I know seniors who work in Chalmers, who study in Chalmers Institute of Technology, which I believe is in Sweden, and one of the very good colleges in Europe. Another one of the top colleges in Europe is TU Delft, which is, I believe, Netherlands. And there's KU Leuven, which is Belgium. There's a couple in Switzerland. I'm forgetting their names. I think it's EPFL. I might be wrong, but there's a couple in Switzerland that are great too. So yeah, if your focus is to apply to Europe, then it's Switzerland, Belgium. I would say even Italy to some extent. Definitely Sweden and Netherlands. Yeah. And then coming to the US side, when you're applying to US, there's these 3 tiers. We like to call them like the ambitious, like dream colleges, and then the moderate, like you have like a really good chance of getting in and it's a reputed college. And then there's your safe colleges. So under safe colleges, you have everything from Arizona State University, which is where I'll be going to next. You have your University of Alabama, you have oh gosh, there's so many actually. Like it depends on like the ranking of the college, but these are the 2 that I can think of off the top of my head. And then in your mid-level colleges, you have Texas A&M University, you have North Carolina State, you have University of Wisconsin-Madison, you have University of Washington, Seattle. You have all of these come in your mid-level colleges, and then in your top-tier colleges are basically your dream colleges, which for material science includes University of California at Berkeley. It includes Carnegie Mellon University. It includes Caltech to some degree, I would say. They don't really have like a very established material science program, but just because it's Caltech, like a lot of students, like it's brand value, which is another thing that I actually want to touch upon briefly. Like I mentioned before, material science is a very niche subject. So a lot of the times, if you're applying for your higher studies and you just go to QS World Rankings or whatever ranking system your website you're following, and you set it like, okay, show me the top colleges in US. A lot of the times these are for general, either general engineering subjects or just overall general rankings. I don't really suggest doing this because each university has here the departmentally each system is very independent. Like material science, we function as an independent body, which is not in connection to the rest of the College of Engineering, which in turn is one subset of the entire Texas A&M University system. Now, because of this level of stratification, it means that the department itself can be great, even if the college is ranked lower than the other colleges. And conversely, even if the college is ranked really high, the material science department might not be as great. To give an example, I know everyone thinks of MIT as like the institute in US, like Massachusetts. They think it's the institute in US. But their material science program, although it's good, it's definitely a good program. Uh, I would personally say that it would be better to apply to, there are better departments out there. Like if you get a material science master's degree from California, Berkeley, it's going to hold a lot more value. It's going to be a lot more worthwhile, and it's going to be a lot more fruitful for the student, for the individual student who's applying for this degree. So it's a very, I would say there's no like rigid pattern. There's no rigid like rubric, which you have to follow. Like you just have to make sure that you research the department itself. Like when you're applying, don't look at the college, don't look at the brand value of the college, and don't look at its hype or like the ranking. Look at the department, look how old the department is, look at how many different like fields of material science are they offering research in. Look at the number of professors that they have, look at the number of tenured professors that they have. Look at stuff like their, probably if you're interested in going for jobs after your master's, then look at their placement statistics, look at their international student ratios, look at their different kinds of projects that the department as such is working on. So these things will require a lot of study rather than just looking at like the rank of the college, is especially when it comes to the US. I'm not too sure how it would work for the Europe counterpart, but US definitely this is how it works. Yeah.
You mentioned that material science is a very niche field. And I know a lot of people who refrain from pursuing material science because they're worried about its future. Now, especially that COVID-19 is happening, they they are even more scared to delve into such a small, a particular field. So, what do you have to say to them? What words of encouragement?
Okay, so again, when it comes to material science, there are you can approach this question from two perspectives. The first perspective being what do you want to do after you graduate, and the second being in terms of whether or not you want to study material science in this pandemic scenario, as you mentioned. I would prefer, I'm going to tackle the first perspective first, which is what do you want to do after you graduate. So there again, there's two types of career pathways. One, you either get into academia and research, or two, you get into job. Like you get into the corporate world, you get placed, and then you get into the corporate industry. With either of these pathways, I would say the future, like, okay, I'm talking about it like with a very authoritarian uh, outlook, as if, you know, I know what's up and I know that it's going to happen. Disclaimer, I am not the last, you know, final sentence on everything that's going on in the world. But based on my exposure, based on what I've seen of my classmates here, and based on what I know of the field, I would say that the future for either of these streams right now is pretty secure. And I'll tell you why. Because when it comes to academia and research, material science is a very heavy, very academically heavy field. So not a lot of people tend to go into the corporate industry. It's generally people who are getting into research or into teaching and stuff like that. When it comes to teaching, we will always have need for teachers. We will always have the need for professors, it's and moreover, if you're starting now at your age and you're saying that I want to get into academia and I want to teach material science, then you have a long way ahead of you. You have to finish your master's, you have to get your PhD. Then after your PhD, there's another academic stint here called a postdoc, which is basically a research fellow, where you're not a professor yet, but you are working under a professor directly and you're managing his lab for him. And then you become an associate professor, then you become an assistant professor, and then finally you get that full professorship title. So it's a long way. You have at least a good 8-9 years ahead of you, at least, I'm saying, at the minimum. So keeping the long, and this is not to discourage anybody from following this path, because I mean, this is kind of what you sign up for when you know you want to get into teaching, when you know you want to get into research. It is a long and arduous path, but it pays off. Like, the rewards are exemplary. So keeping this in mind, keeping in mind that the time frame is like 9 to 10 years at the minimum, I think there's scope to be hopeful that, the pandemic will have died down by then, or we'll have found some cure, not cure, like a vaccine by then. But I would say that stream is relatively safe from like the harmful consequences of the pandemic, just purely because of the time frame it would take for you to achieve that goal. Coming to and another thing is, material science is actually quite heavily involved in the search for better, I would say, better measures to equip humanity in dealing with this pandemic. To give you an example, my very own research group, the lab that I'm working with, the professor that I'm working with, we had a project where we were trying to make polymer meshes. The application was intended to be completely different in the beginning, but as soon as we were hit with this pandemic and it became this global outbreak, actually all of our labs were shut down and we weren't allowed to work, and it was termed that only essential workers were supposed to be allowed to work in their labs, which was when my professor herself applied for a proposal. She proposed that the polymer meshes that we were building in our lab could be incorporated into wearable cloth face masks. And this was something that blew my mind personally, because material science is so versatile in its nature that even though we were building this mesh for a completely different application, just by tailoring a few of the synthesis parameters, or just by tailoring a few properties of this material, we were able to tailor it to kind of suit this last minute need that came up. And that is what material science is about. It's about innovation and trying to see how the solution that already is in place, or a solution that you're working on, can be tailored to cater to a wide variety of problems that humanity faces. So that's another thing. So research in general has a lot of scope in the future, even in the presence of a pandemic, even without the presence of a pandemic. Coming to the job sector, if you're looking to get into the job industry after you graduate, I would say that chances are a little dire right now. Like right away, at least I know that a couple of my batchmates are facing issues with getting placed. But it's important to remember that, at the end of the day, life does not stop. Just because we're facing this situation does not mean that that's the end of the world. Even though it might seem like it right now, like everything, the world has I would say that the world has paused. We haven't stopped yet. There will be a time when things will get back up again. There will be times when, and this is what history teaches us as well. We have periods of extreme recession. We have periods of extreme prosperity. But just because everything's going down doesn't mean that you're not going to come back up again. And when that does, we are anticipating a boom in like the placement industry. Like we're anticipating that there will be such immediate need for such immediate want, not even need. Like there'll be so much demand for these engineers, materials engineers in the industry. We probably might face a shortage of people who are actually willing to work in the industry because of this. It's very unpredictable, but the more important thing is to remember that that's not the end.
Do you have any other general tips for those who are currently in their third, second, or first year who are looking to pursue MS in material science?
I would say that for the third years, if you are looking to pursue your master's, definitely work on getting research internships for your summer. And you guys are just starting out with your third year, so you have the rest of the year to do your background research on what kind of research you could be doing. Now, this can either be abroad, or you can work at IITs, IIT Bombay, IIT, I think it was Madras, and then NIT Trichy. All of these offer great summer research internships for metallurgy and material science students, or ISC at Bangalore. So for the third year, definitely score a research internship at the end of your third year, towards the end of your third year. Moreover, start practicing on the GRE tests. The earlier that you can start working on it, the better. Uh, Only because it kind of makes your life easier in final year. It makes life easier to not have to cram everything in. I know that's generally what students tend to do, but with competitive exams, it doesn't really work that way. It's more of a marathon than a race. So the longer you keep at it, it's life is just going to get easier for you. So start working on your GRE and TOEFL practice sessions, basically. And yeah, start researching on what kind of colleges you want to apply to. That also requires some extensive reading that goes into it. That would be for the third years. My main advice for the second and first years would be, I know that it's a lot to ask of somebody. I know that it's a lot to expect, but having clarity definitely helps. It definitely helps you in kind of uh, laying out your pathway for the future. It helps in putting down where you need to get to, and then choosing what route you need to get to where you're going. So I feel like for the first years and second years, this is a crucial time in deciding where you need to get to. How to get there can be decided later on, but if you don't know where you're going, then life is just going to become that much more difficult for you. So think about what you want to be doing after you graduate, and there's different perspectives to approach this. Do you want to earn money? Do you feel like you work better as a in just by yourself? Do you feel you're a team player? Are you comfortable interacting with other teams to get your work done? Do you prefer to get all your work done by yourself? Are you an independent worker? Give thought to all of these. Give substantial, sit down and think about all the answers to all these questions, and that will definitely help you in figuring out where you want to end up after you graduate. And most importantly, I think it's important advice, especially for the current batch of third, second, first years. As I said, the pandemic is not the end of the world. I know we make a lot of memes about it, but it's not the end of the world. It's important to remember that. It's important to have hope and continue working on your applications, continue working on your resume and on your life skills as if there was no pandemic. You cannot, because if you let this pandemic become an excuse, then you're letting it affect your life in another additional adverse way. It's already affecting your life adversely. Don't give it another chance to, just don't give it any more chances than it's already taken.
Thank you so much, Yashaswini. It was very informative to listen to you. That brings us to the end of another interview, guys. If you found this helpful, do hit the like button below and don't forget to share and subscribe to find out about more opportunities beyond NITK.